Hi, this is Lisa Kleitch, and this is a presentation on articulation, ornaments, and a little bit of smoke and mirrors too, as part of the elements of music. Articulation, which is also a term used in speech, is how we get from one note to another. Let me give an example. If you drove to campus, you would get from point A to point B, but it would be a different experience if you biked to campus, or ran, or took a helicopter, or a boat even. Those would all be quite different experiences. And that's the same thing that articulation does. It doesn't mess with the rhythm, it doesn't mess with the melody, any of that, but it's how we get from one note to another. And you can use lots of great layman's terms for describing how we do that, and I've got a list here on the side, and we're actually going to go through Haydn's second movement of Haydn's Surprise Symphony, and it's got just about everything in it. So the high voice and the violin are playing very detached notes. There's some space in there. It's not, and in the back, they have more sustained notes with a decay in them. They're going to do it again, except for softer. See how the bows are kind of bouncing along? And that was an accent. And then they did some that were more connected, more smooth. Might even say slurred. And so you had a combination here of the detached and more sustained sound. And the very smooth connection going up that scale there. And again, an accent. And again, more light, detached. And then you have groups of notes connected. Dee-da, dee-da, dee-da. Another accent. So does that give you an idea of what articulation is? I hope so. So something else that is used in terms of an effect is vibrato. And I know you've heard a lot of vibrato. It's a modulating of pitch where it goes a little slightly sharp, slightly flat to create this kind of pulse behind the music. And Whitney Houston does it great. Hear that?
Should stay, I would only be in your way.
Hear how that kind of pulses? Not the A, but the when she holds one, there it is again.
But I know I'll think of you every step of the way.
Okay. So singers use vibrato a lot when they have long sustained pitches, because it rather, if you hold it and it's flat, or you're slightly off pitch, it's just going to sound awful. So this is the way they're kind of dancing in around the pitch. It's vibrato. It's very pretty. It makes it less piercing. Violins do vibrato too, and then on this example from the Celtic Women, you're also going to get a slide in there. So point that out when that happens. You hear that slide? See when she's moving her hand back and forth? Not to negotiate from one note to another, but she's right there. That's vibrato on the violin. And it warms up the sound. And again, like for singers, it you know, kind of a little flat and sharp, and so you're not having a pitch drilled at you. Okay. Guitarists do vibrato too, and this is really a great example. And you're going to see vibrato and a little bit of bending as well. See that? And that was a bend. So he bends it and then does a vibrato there. So one of the nice things you get to see is how he varies the speed and the depth of the vibrato. Very nice demo here, thanks. Okay, and speaking of trills and grace notes, we're going to listen to a blues flutist. I thought I would just give you a quick little example here. I'm playing a sopranino recorder, and a trill is when you go from one note to an adjoining note, or an adjacent note rather, and you quickly oscillate between them. That's a trill. And then you're going to hear some grace notes in there. A grace note's when you just kind of like flip up to the note that you just had, or down to the note that you just were on. So that last bit was a little grace note. Okay, so let's listen to it in a jazz rendition. There's a trill. There was a grace note. More grace notes there. Okay. So those are types of ornaments. Now, included in part of this unit are some auxiliary videos, which could be on the test. Going to talk about some effects. This is the smoke and mirrors part that are used in recording. And reverb is used all the time to kind of set the tone of the room. And then auto-tune is a pitch helper, and it can be used as a special effect in its own. And then it also helps singers, it clears up those little imperfections of pitch. So that'll be on the test, and I picked some really good videos for you on that. So I'm signing out for now.